welcome back to the Pod of Thrones continuing coverage of San Diego Comic-Con 2018. I'm Jeff.
I'm Jennifer.
All right, so...
Wait, how come it's not Kid-Free Weekend?
Because we haven't posted a Kid-Free Weekend labeled podcast in
Why?
6+ months. Because I don't have time to manage 2 podcast feeds anymore, honestly. And we were supposed to be working on this other project with a friend of ours, which was going to take up enough time where we really could only definitely run 1 podcast. And that is still moving very slowly.
All right,
but
sorry.
Our friend says for absolute certain we're still going to do this thing.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry about that, everybody. I was just a little... Yeah, since I'm taking over Kid-Free Weekend and you're taking over Pod of Thrones.
On Twitter.
I'm feeling a little
Weekend. What?
left out.
Well, that's why the YouTube channel is still called the Kid-Free Weekend.
Maybe we can mesh them together somehow. Do a mashup.
Okay. If it makes you feel any better, on a lot of these podcasts, I was going to use the Kid-Free Weekend theme song, but not this one. Because this one has a little bit of a Westworld emphasis, babe.
Yeah.
Yes. So when we released an episode yesterday, that episode was about Bobcat Goldthwait's Misfits and Monsters. You had gone to the press room for that and met Mr. Goldthwait himself, which I am jealous of, but I had a pretty good thing going too, so we were just double booked. We couldn't go to these things together.
Mm-hmm.
So
mine was pretty amazing.
Well, so was mine. I got to hang out with a guy named Dr. Travis Langley.
I have met Dr. Travis Langley.
Yes, we have both met him before. We first ran into him and this Psych Geeks crowd at our first Stan Lee's Los Angeles Comic-Con, Slack. And it was there that we met him. We met Dr. Janina Scarlett, her cool husband, Dustin. They've been on the podcast since then. And that even comes up in this interview.
That was so long ago.
I know. But, hey, it's cool, you know? We met some neat folks. But we've never sat down and talked to Dr. Langley before. We've gone to some of his panels. But this was a chance to finally have a conversation with him. And I hope that there will be more. Because we only got about 25 minutes in.
Was it fascinating?
He had to go. It was just fun. We talked. Yeah, it was psychology, but we were geeking out on stuff.
I wish I had gone to that one. We should have swapped. Although I really did love Bobcat.
You got to meet Bobcat.
I did.
Goldthwait.
I know. I wish they were at different times because I'm a psychology major and it would have been so.
Well, I have a thought on that. I can't promise anything because I got to ask Dr. Langley, but he has a book coming out soon, which goes back to the whole Westworld thing. So Dr. Langley, as we'll talk about, writes a bunch of these books, The Psychology of Blank. And he started, as he's going to tell us, with Batman, and we first got it on our radar because there was a Psychology of Game of Thrones panel, of which there's also a book. They've done a bunch of different things, 10 books, I think, total. But the new one that's coming out, just to give it a quick plug before we plug it again in the interview, is called Westworld Psychology, Violent Delights. And that will be coming out, Amazon says November 6th, which sounds different from the date he told me, but we'll have to go to the tape for that. But it's coming out later this year. I'm excited for it, and much more excited for it after talking to Dr. Langley about it. It just sounds like it's going to be a really fun book.
I bet it's being published in Europe first, because that's what happened with one of Dr. Janina Scarlett's books, and it was published there first. Remember, we couldn't get the superhero we couldn't get the superhero psychology book before because it was only in Europe. Yes. The Europeans got it first.
The Europeans?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I do kind of remember that. I don't know for sure. He does give a release date in our conversation that's coming right up. So listen for that. But Amazon says November 6th if you want to pre-order it there. I'm sure he'd appreciate it. But maybe we can talk to him again somewhere in conjunction with the release of his book. And then you could ask him some psychology questions yourself, since you are more of a psychologist than I am.
That would be fun.
Yeah.
I was oh my gosh.
What? Is this about Dr. Langley?
No, go ahead.
Okay. No,
I'll tell later. We have to still talk about Comic-Con.
Yes.
All of Comic-Con
to talk about. Okay.
All
right. Well,
just remind me to talk about Jean
Valjean, the bread thief from Les Miserables.
No.
right. Well, you work on that. In the meantime, everybody else, here's the conversation with Dr. Langley. He's a cool guy. You should follow him. He's at Superheroologist, because it's got that O in there.
How do you spell that?
Superheroologist or Superheroologist. It's SUPERHERO. So you got superhero and then LOGIST. So Superheroologist.
Okay.
He's Superheroologist on Twitter. You can look him up on Amazon. He's got a website, drtravislangley.info, I believe. But start with Twitter. He posts all the time. He's a neat guy.
All right. Can't wait to listen.
All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. We got more to come. All right. I'm here with Dr. Travis Langley. Travis, welcome to Pod of Thrones. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me here.
So we are at San Diego Comic-Con. You are a busy man. We were just talking about, how many panels did you say you're doing?
6 panels, 2 book signings, and a lot of other running around.
And you are a doctor of, for those that are not
psychology.
Familiar.
I am a psychologist. I'm a psychology professor at a university, a liberal arts university in the middle of nowhere, but they appreciate creative ways of teaching and the fact that what I do is interesting to nerdy students.
Do you get... Okay, well, let's talk about that then. What kind of classes are you offering? Are they specifically like nerdy
most
psychology?
Of what I do are traditional psychology classes, forensic psychology, abnormal psychology, social psych. But every spring I do something media related. It's started with a psychology and literature course. I'm going to be doing that again next year. It's been psychology and film. There was one, Psych of the Living Dead. It was mostly The Walking Dead, but we also did Night of the Living Dead in there because John Russo, Romero's co-author, he came and visited us in the class.
Oh.
And so I had to make sure we wove Night of the Living Dead in. And twice it's been a class called Batman. And the second time I offered it, somebody who had actually talked me into letting him take it the Batman class when he was a freshman, he took it again as a senior.
Yeah.
But we had to list it differently. So he's one student who has on his transcript Advanced Batman.
It's just called Batman.
Yeah,
That's great.
And then the second time it was Advanced Batman. Yeah, right. I'm very fortunate. There are professors who have to disguise some of their more creative classes, come up with names. I heard of one who was teaching a Lord of the Rings class, and all it said was fantasy literature. So some people who love Lord of the Rings missed out on it, and some people who wanted a greater variety of fantasy missed out on it. I did not have to call it Psychology of Nocturnal Vigilantism. I called it Batman.
Does that class fill up fast?
No, because I don't let it. Well, technically it does, because I set a very small course limit.
Oh, okay.
I schedule at the worst time of the day, at the end of the day on Wednesday and Friday, because by gosh, they want to be in there.
You want them to want to be
and
there. Right.
The very low limit I set fills up fast, and then I'll let a few more add as they convince me they belong in there. I want it to be a conversational kind of class, maybe around 15 students.
Oh.
And it's just a wonderful time. And they're always amazed when they take these media-related classes at what a strong review of psychology in general it is, because you're looking at these fictional characters, and fiction has to tell truths that plain facts don't necessarily just get at. And they always come out and say, it's going to be fun looking at science fiction. It's going to be fun looking at Star Wars. And then they go, we learned a lot more about psychology and people than we were expecting to.
When you got into psychology, did you have a vision that you were going to take your hobbies and find a way to intermingle them? Did your hobbies inspire your interest in psychology?
No, I mean, I really used to think of these as two separate things. In terms of them being connected, I mean, early on, when I was a kid, here I am this nerdy kid who felt so isolated and alien in so many ways, and I think some of my early interest in psychology was wanting to understand people in general and relate to people. And when I was in 4th grade, I checked out a psychology book. I didn't understand much of it, but by gosh, I was trying.
Yeah.
I wasn't planning on majoring in psychology until it was about time to enter college. But I always wanted to write. I was always fascinated with stories. And when we talk about people, we still are telling stories. And if there's no point to your story, it's like, well, why did they go on and on and on telling us this? So when we talk about real life, we are telling stories, and we're choosing how we tell that. You're bringing storytelling in to everyday conversation. Storytelling is how we communicate, how we share ideas, how we invent.
Now, you do write. To the best of my knowledge, not fiction. You're not telling stories in that regard now, but you have a lot of books that if you go to Amazon and search for Dr. Travis Langley, you come up a lot.
It's fun seeing the nice long row of my books. I gotta admit.
When was your first book that you put out, and what was it?
The first book, and I was sole author on the book Batman in Psychology, A Dark and Stormy Night. I did not think that was going to be the subtitle.
Is that Knight?
Yes.
Okay.
We had been discussing possible subtitles. Batman in his belfry, Beneath the Cowl. The publisher was inclined to Beneath the Cowl, and I was like, I don't have to say that over and over, and most people don't know what a cowl is. And then one day, A Dark and Stormy Night popped in my head as a joke, and then I thought, no, wait a minute, that has layers of meaning.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And we surveyed over 500 people, and overwhelmingly, that was the favorite. I remember my wife said, "You are not calling it that." That was it. And then after the immediate success of Batman in Psychology, I got to know other nerdy psychologists. People would get in touch with me. They'd come to me at conventions and say, if you do more of these books, we'd love to get involved. So the subsequent books are anthologies, collections written by a number of us. I write more than anybody else. I still write a lot in every single book, but I also have experts in other areas, child psychologists, developmental psychologists, forensic psychologists, trauma experts, bringing in a lot of different points of view. And so that achieves a couple of different things. It lets us give greater breadth than just what any one of us could say by ourselves. It forces me to learn more about some other areas of psychology. I feel like I've earned an extra doctorate while working on these books just because having learned even more through what these other writers are doing. And sometimes the challenge for me when I want to bring in something new for the audience, because there are people who have all of these books. I want to make sure that they're still getting something new each time. Like when one of my trauma experts wants to talk about post-traumatic growth. Again, it's an important topic. People hear about post-traumatic stress disorder, but there's also post-traumatic growth. People go through horrible trauma. We use Sansa and Arya as some of our best examples of post-traumatic growth. And Arya's just my favorite character anyway. Me too. You see the journey with both of these characters. And Arya, she's building her strengths but getting more distant as a human being and finally reconnecting with some of her own humanity lately too. But they've gone through these horrible things and they've made meaning out of it and found purpose. They still are people who have a lot of things to work on.
Yeah.
But they are just wonderful examples of the post-traumatic growth. But when we bring this up again, I always bring up, what is something we can say different about the post-traumatic growth, not just using it with a different example with this character, Arya as opposed to Batman. Arya is their Batman. She's a lot deadlier than a Batman. She's more of a Punisher, isn't she? Yes, she's a Punisher. Arya's a Punisher. But
you know what, though? Unlike the Punisher, in the last season, it really warmed my heart. She laughed.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. She's reconnecting with some of her own humanity.
Right.
And that one episode where she finds out about that, she's on her way to go kill Sansa, and she finds out about them, and she weighs on it.
The Lannister guards.
And just these little bits, and she decides, because there's a bit of it when she goes by and she goes to the tavern and she's reconnecting with the guy that she did.
Hot Pie.
Yeah, she reconnected with Hot Pie, and there was definitely a nice bit of humanity there. And then she finds out about where they are. It's like she makes a choice. I'm going to go head this way, and she's taking a different path, and I just love that moment.
Well, post-traumatic growth, for those that are loyal Pot of Thrones listeners, you might recognize that term because we've had Dr. Janina Scarlett on a couple times.
Yeah.
She's been one of your big collaborators, right? And she's taught us a lot about what that means, and especially in regards to Sansa and Arya, because we are Game of Thrones nerds.
So, like, for example, when Janina wants to talk about post-traumatic growth again with a different character and a different story, I also will bring up, okay, what's our challenge? What is something different we can say about real-world post-traumatic growth that some of our previous readers can gain even more understanding of it than they had before? I want to make sure we're challenging ourselves and we're keeping it interesting for the readers.
Now, you have another... Well, how many books have you done now? How many of these, what do they call them? Psych geeks, right? The Psych Geeks
That's
book?
our nickname for it. I mean, the actual title is the Popular Culture Psychology series.
Well, there you go.
But, you know, we call it the Psych Geeks.
I always see hashtag Psych Geeks on Twitter.
We say, well, Popular Culture Psychology,
that's a long hashtag,
for a hashtag.
Although they did double the Twitter limit now, so you could start that.
But other people aren't going to type it. And type it. I also, people have enough trouble remembering how to spell the psych part right. But yeah, that's our as we were calling it Psych Geeks, and the publisher didn't like that, and I was like, okay, but so we have another name, but yeah, for ourselves, it's Psych Geeks. That's what we are. We're psychologists or people in related fields, and we're also big nerds, and so we've got nerdy interest, and we're being geeky in how we approach it. So it's all there together.
So how many are we? How many are we on?
It's okay. The one I did is sole author Batman.
Sure.
And then of the anthologies, Westworld Psychology, Violent Delights will be number 10.
10th book in the series. So 10 including Batman?
No, Batman plus 10.
Oh, okay.
Batman plus 10 anthologies.
Well, so there you go. So start picking those up, everybody. And I thought the Westworld one would especially be of interest to our audience because that's, like, after Game of Thrones, that's number 2 on our list of the things that we talk about all the time. So
that's an interesting combination, too. You've got your fantasy world and your sci-fi world.
Well, and people keep speculating now that maybe they're all the same world.
Yeah,
maybe Game of Thrones is actually one of the
parks.
Right.
Maybe it's one of the parks, one of those 3 parks that we don't know what they are.
I'm guessing that's probably not it, but
we don't know.
I know we have some surprises coming up.
We don't even know where those parks are.
It's true.
There are still fans speculating that they're on Mars. Though in our Science of Westworld panel tomorrow, we're going to say outright why it can't be Mars.
Yeah, I don't think it could be Mars. But man-made islands is what I'm thinking.
If you want to go with if you want to be actually in any kind of scientific accuracy, the number one reason it can't be Mars, gravity.
Well, sure.
People will move differently, and you don't want to see that on screen. When you're watching The Martian and Matt Damon's walking around in the pod with regular gravity, the gravity's the same inside that pod as it would be out there on the planet. We don't think about that. But if you want to get it, especially I think something like Westworld, where it's getting into where is science taking us. Where are we going to wind up? We've got that singularity looming somewhere in our future, and we've got advances as we keep improving artificial intelligence, and some people want to do things like, can I just kind of upload myself into a computer at some point? These are, oddly enough, these are real concerns. These are things people are thinking about. It might be however many years off it is. People will reach that point.
There's a company recently that said that they could do that. They would destroy your brain in the process of uploading
it. Yeah, and then in the process of the copy. Well, it's like your Star Trek transporters. They disintegrate you to make a copy somewhere else.
I always thought that was crazy. You die, and then you come back to life.
Yeah. But because of those things having to do with where is real science taking us, then it is legitimate to question what's going on using real-world physics and chemistry and biology when looking at this. So I think they have to be true to some basic things there. It can't be Mars.
No, I don't think it could be Mars. So psychologically speaking, then, what kind of stuff comes up in this book? This book's not out yet. When does it come out?
No, this one comes out in October.
Okay.
We're going through the editing process right now.
All right. Well, a little preview then. What kind of topics can we expect to see?
Oh, gosh. Well, of course, we got a couple of chapters on the psychology of gaming. Because there's a lot of game design to Game of Thrones.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're game design experts who watched the show and said, man, they are totally onto these tricks that we're doing. And it's like, Logan is outright talking about these elements of game design. It's like, no, we're not going off on this mission.
We found an Easter egg, we got to...
Yes. So we got a couple of chapters on game design. And in fact, Tim Kaine, the creator of Fallout, wrote the foreword for us.
Oh, good, because that's something that I just don't see enough people talking about, but we've said it many times on this show. It's like playing Fallout 4. Have you played Fallout 4? Okay. The Institute, the synths, it's the visuals and the ideas are almost the same.
Yeah. No, I was very glad that Kane agreed so quickly and then wrote us a really nice... In fact, he was the first one to finish... Before we even finished any of our own chapters, he was the first one to finish his part for the book. And it's a great form. We've got our chapters on the narrative, the power of story, such as narrative therapy, using story to help people understand their own lives. Because narrative is a topic that comes up over and over within Westworld. Voice, finding your voice, your place, your meaning. We do have 2 chapters on the Julian Jaynes bicameral mind because that's important in there. They're late in the book. It was a bit of a juggle because the section that they're in could have logically been at the beginning of the book, but I don't want to overplay and make people think we really treat that as how psychology really works. And they do say within the show, when Bernard says, it's like, wasn't that theory disproved?
Yeah.
And Ford is saying, but that doesn't mean it can't be used as a model for creating artificial consciousness. Okay, so we do have to talk about it. We have 2 chapters that take some different points of view and tie it to some other real psychology. And we have chapters on choice, free will, 2 free will chapters. One has more to do with free will with AI, and the one Matt Munson and I wrote has more to do with free will with human beings. And it's like they're debating free will on the AI, and as got brought up at the end of season 2, well, how do you know human beings have free will?
If you can codify someone's brain and predict what they're going to do at every turn, that's the question, right? Do we actually make our choices?
Yeah,
or
I hope they get into this idea when they're testing fidelity. Are you going to have the same conversation the real you had? But you've already messed it up by introducing variables such as looking older,
right,
or saying things such as, it's been a really long time. Well, that's going to affect his attitude. How do you expect him to have the same conversation? Or this bit when AI Logan is saying, every single version, he always came back to this. It's like, that's because you've got the specific programming. The virtual James Delos may always come back to that. It doesn't mean a real one would, because we can't exactly put it to the test. Okay, we're going to have you in 1,000 different universes, and we'll mix the variables and see if the yous in this universe act different from the yous in that one. Some of the closest we can possibly come to that is looking at some people with anterograde amnesia. They're not forming new memories. And you can repeat conversations with them they don't remember having before. And sometimes it does go interestingly similarly. It will never be identical, though.
Right. Never identical.
Right. So you've got a living human being who their memory has been erased of that conversation, and yet it still won't be identical for whatever little variables have gone on, some difference in the biology of that day, the time of day, the temperature in the room, who knows, but whatever minor variables you're introducing. So this bit with, just William looking older, or the daughter droid, whatever she is, telling him it's been a long time. So I question that being their standard for fidelity. But hopefully the show with a lot of things that we as the fans question, they either have in mind already or they adapt. They're smart. They're smart people putting this show together.
But they definitely have a skeleton set up for the next few years.
They have a skeleton set up for the few years, but they also listen to fans. And it's like, okay, we should address this little detail because the fans are wondering about this.
The amnesia thing intrigues me because it does feel like that. What's retrograde?
Anterograde. Retrograde, you're forgetting the past.
Right.
Anterograde, you're not forming new memories. Like in the movie Memento, also by Nolan. Well, it's from a short story by Jonathan Nolan.
Huh.
Yeah, so Christopher Nolan, his brother, did the movie, but Jonathan Nolan wrote the short story it was based on. So Jonathan Nolan, who's giving us Westworld,
I did not realize that.
He did the anterograde story, amnesia story that let a lot of people discover anterograde amnesia.
Well, because that description sounds just like what, let's say, Dolores was going through every single day. She goes to sleep, either actively or passively. Delos is erasing her memories. But I do wonder, though, there was some that's always... I work in technology. That's my day job, right? So I likened it to erasing a hard drive, where you can clear the hard drive out, you can delete files, but you're not actually deleting them. You're just deleting the references to them, which comes up with Bernard's brain in this season.
Yeah, I love the way they do it, the confusion in his memory. So, well, he's got 20 years of de-addressed memories. It's like,
right.
I thought that was a fantastic line just in terms of big picture stuff making sense on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reverie, well, they hinted at it with the reveries, right? So the way that they talk about the de-addressing memories, you delete stuff, but it's still kind of building up. We had the reveries where they're kind of remembering things, and slowly but surely, though, it starts to come out. Is there any connection with, does any of that happen with amnesia cases as well?
Well, it depends on the type of amnesia.
Like, is it still there in the brain somewhere? They just can't access it?
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
In terms of the episodic event memories, no. I mean, it can be that it's wiped, it's gone. It's like the tape is erased. If you get electroconvulsive therapy, ECT, shock to the brain, and with the dosage being just right, you might lose the last few hours of memory, and they're absolutely not there.
Wow.
They're absolutely not there. It's just it's not stored. While the memory was still just chemical and not hadn't affected the neurons the same way, it's like it's gone. But that's with event memory. You see some of these people with anterograde amnesia, you give them a task to do, like a physical puzzle to do, and they don't remember ever having done it before. They have no episodic memory of that, and yet they get faster at the task. They've got some physical memory, what a lot of people call muscle memory. Which we'll refer to more as procedural memory. And so we have signs that there are some memories in there. There are things that are creeping out, just not the kind of things a lot of people think about.
That's really interesting. I'm looking forward to reading this book. Can we geek out for just a second or two, and I'll let you go because I know you got to go. But Game of Thrones, because I know you like to geek out about that. Iron Throne, end of the show. Who's on it?
I honestly don't have a guess.
Oh, not even a guess.
I know.
Do you have a hope?
I want it to surprise me.
Oh, all right.
I do. I want it to surprise me, and for me to then go, oh, that makes so much more sense than anything I would have guessed. Whether they pull it off or not, they have those moments in the show, though. So that's what I'm hoping. It's like I could go. It's like, well, I can see how Sansa could do a good job there. Even though you think, well, how would Sansa wind up there? The logic of it's a separate issue. It's like, Sansa could do a good job there. And it's like, oh, well, of course, the one who's been campaigning for it, your dragon mother, all along the way, she's too darn obvious. Because she'd be fine. I would be fine with her landing on that throne, but it wouldn't be the surprise that some other people could be.
But it is the Song of Fire and Ice. Does Sansa play into that?
It is. She
could be ice, I guess.
She's almost a king in the north, not quite,
right.
But she's of course, we did just see Fire and Ice hook up and at the end of the season.
We sure did. And then Tyrion, his head down, doing like a Charlie Brown walk away.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Tyrion. Is he a Targaryen, or is he?
I think
in the
books he is. And I think in the show they're not going to address that.
You don't think so?
I don't think so. They've only got so many episodes left.
I was hoping he'd be the third dragon rider someday, but we're already down one dragon.
And I still think we'll see that in the books.
Tyrion on a dragon?
Yeah, I think we'll see Tyrion on a dragon in the books.
I hope so. All right. So your book comes out in October.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to watch for it. We're going to tweet about it when it comes out. I'm looking forward to reading it myself because it sounds fascinating. So
every single one of these books is fun and special to me in different ways, and I get every time I think, oh, this is the best one. This is the best one. I say, this is the one where there's not one problem child in the whole book. There's not one chapter, a single chapter where I'm going. It's like, why are you saying this? I usually have some moment where I'm thinking, I might have a writer. There have been a couple writers who they worked on something that wound up not in the book, and that kills me too. It's usually if somebody has a chapter that's not as good, we can pair them with somebody else who helps take their idea and help them turn it into something really strong. Some of our best chapters have actually started off as terrible chapter that with enough work could become a really strong one. But there was one of those where we had to do any issues like that whatsoever. I'm just really darn happy with every single chapter in the book.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's great. Well, you got a lot of panels ahead of you here at San Diego Comic-Con. We're probably going to be around covering at least a couple of them. I've got them on my schedule, so I think we'll see you there.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Dr. Langley.
Thanks.
Take care.
Parks and Rec guy.
Which one?
The one we saw.
Oh.
What's up, brother?
Jean Raffio?
Jean Raffio.
We didn't get a picture of him or anything.
I got one of him walking out, and it was so far away.
Okay.
I was trying. I was like fiddling with I was like, where? I couldn't get it. But he said, "What's up, brother?"
He sure did.
I wish I could be like that. Cool, like cool and all. I don't know. I just have like a weird persona that is kind of like, "What's up, brother?" He's cool, He's like, I got a strut.
I'm going to tack this on the end of the episode. So everyone that was waiting with bated breath to find out what Jean you're talking about is the character Jean Ralphio.
John Ralphio. I thought it was Raphael.
John Ralphio, I think. Yeah, whatever. We saw him at Comic-Con. There you go, everybody. He was nice.
He said, "What's up?"
He was nice, but he kept moving.
And he was
I don't think he wanted to attract a crowd.